Hey guys, hope you guys are having a great day. Today we're going to be talking about Racket, and it's a functional programming language, and we're going to be basically talking about the basics of it. This is a very introductory video, so if you don't really know anything about Racket, that's perfectly fine. We're just going to be talking about everything that you need to know to get started with Racket. So let's talk about what I'll be covering today. So we're going to talk about arithmetic operators like plus, minus, times, divide, and then how you would compute something like 10 plus 44. And then we'll go into the basic data structures as integers, pairs, lists, strings, even booleans. Then we'll talk about functions and how to define a function. And then we'll build on these functions that we learned. We'll create recursion functions, we'll use higher order functions, and even something called Lambda functions, which you'll see. Let's talk about arithmetic operators. So I have the terminal open right here. Let's do 10 plus 44. And the way you would do that is you cannot really do this like in other programming languages. Like if you try this, it'll just show you that plus is a procedure. The way you would do this is you make brackets, you put the operation that you want to do, and then you have the parameters that you're going to use. So it's going to be 10, 44. And if you run this will work. And if you want to try 10 times 44, so 440, we would do times and then 10, 44, close bracket. And there you go. Same thing with minus and divide. Now that you understand that pretty well, let's talk about integers. So if you want to define a number, what you would do is define, just like that bracket, you would have the variable name. So let's call this num1 because num2 is already defined. And let's try 7. So now if we wanted to call num1, we get returned 7. And if we do num2, it's not defined. So if we try num, we get 5 because we already defined 5 right here. And same thing with anything else. If you want to print the string, you just do str. And we have that over here called hello. And we have a list now, like the list. Okay, so let's print the list right here. So the way you would define a list is it's not comma separated, so it's space separated. And what you'd want to do is you want to put this apostrophe at first. Apostrophe, brackets, and then whatever values you want. So you can have 3, 5, 7, 8, or 9, sorry. And it would just return that list. So I have list already defined, and there's some cool things that you can do with lists. So if you want to do first list, you can get that value right there. If you do second, you're gonna get 2 because that's the second value in the list. Fourth list, and as you can see, it just goes on. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So you can actually get the value like that. And there's something else called rest. So when you do rest of a function, it will give you the entire list except for that first value. So when you do that, you have 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's pretty important for a recursive function. Let's talk about the Boolean real quick. So the way you do true and false, it's going to be hashtag F and hashtag T. So hashtag F, you can see it's false, hashtag T, that. And you use that in if statements. So the if operation is going to be like if, you're going to have your Boolean statement here. And then you're gonna have, if it's true, return this, otherwise return this. So let's do a quick example. If true, return 0, otherwise return 1. So it's gonna obviously return 0, but let's print it. And let's do the same thing with false. And this is gonna print 1. And in this case, let's try BL because that's a Boolean that we actually have defined. So 0, 1, and we know it's gonna print 0. Just like that. So yeah, that's the basics of the data structures. Let's talk about the functions now. So we already looked at a couple functions. We looked at the if statements, we looked at these functions right here, and what they're doing is they're taking a parameter, they have a name, and they return a value. But these are just built-in functions. So let's talk about how you would define a new function. And you use this thing called define. So you have a bracket, as always. You have the first value is going to be your define. That's your operator. And then you have in brackets, you're going to put your function name and any parameters if you have any. So you do parameters right here, and then you would return whatever is in this bracket. So you're gonna have 3 brackets in total. So you're gonna have 1, that one. We'll do define. Let's make something called print hello. Hello. And then let's do print hello. As simple as that. I already have one defined right here. It's called define square value. And then what I'm doing right here is I have my value right here. I have the parameter that I want, and I'm returning x times x. So what I'm doing is that I'm actually just squaring the value. So if I try that right here, I would make that bracket square value. Let's try 5 and we should get 25. Just like that. And now I have a question right here just to see if you understand it. So if you want to try, you can pause the video and try it out yourself. But I'm just going to try it right now. So define a function that takes one integer parameter and returns a value plus 1. So the way we do this is the same way. So we do define. Let's call this plus 1 x, right? Because we have one parameter that's going to be x. That's going to be our integer. And then what we're returning is going to be plus 1 and x. And that should return. So when we run this now, let's try plus 1, 5, and we should get 6. Just like that. Now let's try something with 2 parameters. So let's create a function called summation. So we're gonna have the brackets right here. And we're gonna have 2 parameters now, right? So they're all gonna be space separated, so you're gonna have x and y. And now you're gonna have what it returns. So we're gonna do plus x, y. Very simple. Let's run this, and let's try summation 4, 5, and it should return 9. Yeah, we didn't really look at pair yet, so let's look at pair. You're gonna have 2 different values right here. So if you do car pair, that takes the first value of the pair. So you do this, you get 1. And if we do CDR, so instead of car, we do CDR pair, we'll get 2. Now let's say we want to define a function to get the first value of any pair. So we have define. We can't call it first because first is already defined. Let's say first pair. We take the pair like this, and then what we return is the CDR, the first value, pair. Just like that. And then let's do first pair of pair, and this should return 1. Just like that. So let's look at these quick helpful functions that Racket already gives us. So cons allows you to join something into a list. So what you need is you're gonna have cons, you're gonna have the number that you want to append to that list, and then we have list because that's list is already defined for us. So we're gonna get 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it doesn't actually modify the actual value. So if you look at list, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but this value right here just returns 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have a list inside instead. So we can do const list, but what you're gonna do, it's not really gonna append the 2 lists. What it's gonna do is it's gonna have a nested list inside that list. So this is gonna return a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the first value is gonna be another list called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you can see right here, the first value of that list that we have is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can even append that pair into the list right here. That's right, like that. And you're gonna have 1, 2, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that. So let's use like multiple brackets now. So let's take that exact thing that we have, const pair list, and we know it's gonna return. We have it right there. And now let's do first of that. And now that should return the first pair, like that. And then let's take that exact function, let's build onto it. Let's take the second value. So let's do CDR of this. You have to make sure you don't make any errors here, but I'm just showing you how you would build onto these brackets right now. So it's kind of like you build on one bracket, you compute one bracket, then you compute the outer bracket, and then the outer bracket, and so on and so on. Now let's look at append. If you want to do append, you have to make sure both values are lists. So for example, if I do 5 and list like this, it's going to give me an error because it's expecting a list and we gave it an integer. So we'll do append list, and now we're going to get one big list with all the values that we need. So right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see the difference between doing that and const list. So this is going to give you a nested list, and append just merges the 2 lists. Const is very similar to list in terms of if you do list, it's just going to create a list of both these 2 values. So you're going to have this thing right here. List is very flexible because if you do list, you can have integers and lists. So like for example, if we do this and we define a new list called 1, 2, 3, we get that. So it's always a nested list like this. But if we want to do list 2 items like 3 and 4, we're gonna get a list. But if we try to do that with cons, we're gonna get a pair. So we're gonna do 3, 4. You're gonna see that's a pair because it's separated by a dot instead of a space. So for example, you can actually do CDR cons 3, 4, and that'll return 4. But if you try to do that with this, it won't work anymore. If you try to do CDR with a list of that, it won't work anymore because it's not a pair. If you really wanted to get 4 now, what you would do is second list 3, 4, and that would give you 4. Let's take a look at empty real quick. So empty itself will return an empty list. So that's what it's just called, right? But if you do empty with a question mark, that's asking is it empty or not. So if we do empty question mark empty, it should return true, or in this case hashtag T. So empty, if we do this, we get hashtag T. But if we actually do empty on an actual list like that with an actual value inside, it's gonna give you false. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful and you understand Racket a little bit more. I'll have the documentation in the description below if you want to learn more about it. But yeah, good luck. Bye.